If anyone is interested in learning some research-backed ways to motivate employees beyond pay, please give me a big, enthusiastic woo on the count of 3, 2, 1. All right, that's at least 70%, pretty good. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Brie Harvey, Head of Market Research and Community for Achievers. I work with the research arm of our business, the Achievers Workforce Institute, which conducts primary research around workforce trends and how organizations can build people-centric, high-performing cultures, which is what we're talking about today and something I'm really passionate about because early in my career, I worked at a place that was so toxic that for years, every Sunday I would think about work and I would feel physically ill. Has anyone ever been visited by the Sunday scaries? It's the opposite of life-giving. I became so burnt out. By the time I finally quit, I spent the next 2 years and 4 months living out of that backpack, contemplating what would be worse, returning to corporate America or becoming an influencer. My parents were so worried. If someone had told me back then that one day I would become one of those people who's voted by my peers multiple times as the most likely to not shut up about work at happy hour, I don't think I would have been able to comprehend it. But here I am, approaching 10 years with Achievers. That's not nothing, thank you. It's like the modern day equivalent of 30. And I know firsthand that when leaders like you get it right and figure out how to create the conditions so that people feel like they matter and like the work that they're doing matters, it's transformative, not just for the business, but for the overall quality of life for actual people. However, if you follow Gartner's hype cycle for HR technology, since the pandemic, you would have seen recognition software go from where AI is now at the peak of expectations and plummet to what they call the trough of disillusionment. And despite the fact that employers spend collectively millions of dollars each year on rewards, about half of employees still feel like their efforts go unnoticed. Does anyone here have employees who feel underappreciated? If you have the sense that your investments in recognition haven't moved the needle on strategic outcomes, you're not alone. The theory-practice gap refers to when the research is applied in the real world and the results don't quite match up as anticipated. We are intimately familiar with this context with this phenomenon in the context of recognition because over the last 20 years, we have designed and implemented over 600 online recognition programs for some of the world's largest, most complex organizations. And we've been able to analyze literally millions of data points each year to understand what best-in-class recognition programs do differently at different phases of growth. We use a change management framework called Crawl, Walk, Run that acknowledges shifting the collective mindset and behaviors of a group of people doesn't happen overnight. But once you have the right resources, alignment, and people in place, the blueprint for success is actually pretty well established. So over the years, we've been able to basically develop this list of best practices, and we know reliably when organizations are able to follow most, or if not all of these, most of these, those reliably end up being our happiest, best performing customers. And conversely, when things fall flat, which sometimes they do, we can pretty much always trace it back to missed opportunities from this list. These themes are underscored by our research. our annual State of Recognition report digs into the top 5 traits of an effective recognition program. Today, we're going to double click on 3 of them, starting with the importance of measuring success strategically. When a recognition program is in a crawl or a walk stage, we're typically thinking about success in terms of program usage, metrics, and employee listening inputs. We want to know where appreciation levels are low, so we know where to focus. But once a program has reached full maturation, because we're running and recognition is ingrained into the employee experience, we'll continue to monitor program usage, but we'll start to look for ways to tie back recognition to things that link back to the dollars and cents of the business. This is and we have a lot of examples like this one, which comes from a retail customer where we found that managers who recognized their teams monthly had on average 40% lower turnover. Now, although this is interesting, it doesn't tell us anything about causation. Like, how do we know that the recognition stingy managers don't just have the lowest performing teams who are the most likely to quit anyway? Anytime we can go beyond correlative associations by isolating variables over time, we de-risk recognition being mistaken as a nice to have by the business. We have a customer with a large call center employee population in India. And while the rest of the world was talking about quiet quitting, they had a word to describe when a new hire went to lunch and never came back. They called it quick quitting. So we ran a targeted campaign where we encouraged frequent recognition for things like training milestones and outcomes, and we saw a 14% uplift to new hire retention for that group within the first 7 weeks. One of our most circulated case studies comes from a telecom customer of ours, Rogers, and we basically isolated a segment of their employee population called their customer care team. And we ran a campaign where we offered real-time recognition and micro bonuses for 2 things: upselling customers on insurance packages and for receiving high service ratings on customer calls, which was measured through Net Promoter Score. Anyone here familiar with NPS? So after the first 60 days, we saw a 90% jump in upsells and a 17-point increase to customer satisfaction scores. While interestingly, the control group that was not involved in the campaign saw a 2-point decrease to NPS over the same period. I will say that not all of our customers have the infrastructure and resources to be able to quantify ROI in terms of performance outcomes, but best-in-class programs continuously look for opportunities to link program usage back to metrics that matter with stakeholders outside of HR. Returning to our pillars of effective recognition, if you're still with me, if you're following, give me a clap on the count of 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're good. I would like to talk about the difference, something called entering what we call the Goldilocks zone in terms of striking the right balance between high recognition quality and recognition quantity. Because if the people in your business don't know how to recognize effectively, it doesn't matter what tools or processes you put in place. You're going to be like a salmon swimming upstream until everyone understands there's a huge difference between praise and recognition. Praise is like a vague pat on the back that doesn't leave employees with an understanding of what they did that was good. And literally, no one wants more praise, not even Gen Z. I'm a geriatric millennial. I gotta sneak in my jabs where I can. Recognition should contain detailed information about exactly what a person did and why it matters to the bigger picture. Researchers at Harvard found that out of all of the things that can motivate employees throughout the course of a workday, the single most important is having a sense of progress. Although there are multiple factors associated with recognition having maximum impact, specificity is probably the most important for quality. Now I want to turn our attention to the importance of recognition quantity, because unfortunately, recognition is a short-term need that has to be satisfied on an ongoing basis. And in fact, nothing in life works without consistent effort over time. Dentists everywhere agree, if you ignore your teeth, they'll go away. It's the same with employees and recognition. There is a little variance in what different sources suggest is the magic threshold of where organizations start to experience some of the more transformative benefits of recognition, but our findings are consistent with the broader community in that we find it's somewhere around at least the monthly mark. So that is the benchmark we recommend to customers, averaging at least one recognition per employee per month. But we have a lot of customers who surpass this substantially, Meyer being a great example. The reason why they average 7, almost 8 recognitions per employee per month, despite having 70,000 offline storefront employees, is not because they have a big rewards budget. It's because they meticulously adhere to all of our best practices, including acknowledging the reality that leaders and managers can't do it alone. Even before the rise of hybrid and remote work, they had exceedingly low visibility into the actual work being done on the front lines. The people in your business with the highest line of sight into the 2-foot level of where work gets done are the best equipped to call it out. Organizations have to enlist the help of frontline employees to call out the unsung heroes among them. What ends up happening once people realize how intoxicating it feels to make someone's day, what ends up happening is leaders get so much more visibility into the actual work being done, which presents these opportunities to reinforce the exact behaviors they want to see more of. So we recommend aiming for at least 50% peer-to-peer recognition. Best in class is closer to 70%. The second no substitutions ingredient for healthy recognition frequency entails encouraging widespread, enthusiastic adoption of non-monetary recognition. We have a lot of examples like this, which comes from CVS, where across their 200,000 employee population, we basically mapped engagement scores to non-monetary recognitions received. And we found that when employees received just one non-monetary recognition per month, they were 43% more engaged than those who didn't. As long as it's quality, non-monetary recognition can be an incredibly powerful way to make more people feel seen and appreciated for their unique contributions at scale. I can say on a personal note, some of the most meaningful recognitions I've ever received weren't even recognitions. They were comments like these two, which were left on my recognitions that literally brought tears to my eyes. We recommend aiming for at least 70% non-monetary recognition. An example that kind of ties some of these concepts together happened to me in 2018 when I received this recognition. And I can still remember exactly where I was sitting in the office when I got it, because it was like being struck by lightning. What made it so memorable wasn't just because it was spectacularly detailed. It was because numerous people I care about and respect and admire took the time to write these heartwarming comments on it. So it was the emotional equivalent of receiving over a dozen recognitions at once. I felt like an influencer going viral for the first time. My dopamine centers were lit. You don't need a big rewards budget to give these digital love bombs at scale, but you do need that tribal social element. Speaking of budget, the last factor which majorly influences recognition frequency has to do with fostering a healthy culture around rewards. You can think of every organization falling somewhere on a spectrum of having a rewards-centric culture where employees are more expectant of rewards, and then there are more rewards-agnostic cultures where rewards are more of the cherry on top instead of the main dish. We have found one of the most effective ways of ensuring that rewards inject an element of fun and healthy gamification instead of being a distraction entails adopting what we call low dollar rewards. I'm talking like in the range of $5 to $10 per recognition, which I know may not sound like much, but going back to my digital love bomb example, we have a feature in our product called Boost, which allows end users to piggyback on existing recognitions by adding points to it. And in this case, I had 8 people publicly and symbolically endorse the sentiment expressed in the recognition by boosting it. So although the total take-home amount of my award was only enough to theoretically get 1 or maybe like 2 things at Sephora, that $55 felt like $1 million because it was combined with the high of receiving those 15 comments from people I love. So rewards can serve to amplify the long-term memorability of recognition, but to the brain, the real reward is feeling meaningfully witnessed by the people who have the highest line of sight into our daily struggles and triumphs. If the conditions aren't in place for recognition to be both high quality and free-flowing, it's not that rewards don't matter, but they certainly become a lot less relevant. That said, as an employee of Achievers, over the last 10 years, I've received a lot of points, not just from digital love bombs, but from winning wellness challenges and referring my friends to work here. We get the equivalent of like $2,000 worth of points per hire. So I have, accumulated a lot of points through the years. And because our product, we can redeem for rewards for pretty much anything you can imagine in an online shopping environment, I've been able to redeem for rewards that are uniquely meaningful to me. My favorite way to use my points is through our concierge service, which allows employees to redeem for custom merchandise or experiences. And I use them to cover the cost of my hair and makeup for my wedding, as well as our wedding photographer and the alterations on my dress. It was really important for me to have a second look for the evening that allowed for a lot of aesthetic movement, so I redeemed my points to get this dress. Here I am pictured with some of my beloved coworkers who I made sure to publicly thank for being inadvertent sponsors of the wedding. We had an employee of a customer actually expand her family and purchase the dog of her dreams. This is her name's Violet. I haven't personally met her, but the word on the street is she's a very good girl. The big thing is that employees need to be in the driver's seat of selecting rewards that are uniquely meaningful to them. In 2019, my husband and I were talking about going to on a last-minute trip for New Year's to somewhere that neither of us had been, but the flights were kind of like teetering on the verge of not being worth the squeeze, so we were talking about it for a few days, and then I remembered that I had all these unused points, and so I bought our flights to Belize, and it ended up being one of the most memorable trips we ever took, because a few months after returning, we got the news that he had glioblastoma, the most deadly cancer known to man. And I don't mean to overshare for the sake of it, but those unused points sitting in my account really was the tipping point that allowed us to have one last spontaneous adventure together. A few months after my husband's first brain surgery, he became obsessed with trying to find me the perfect bike upgrade so that we could squeeze in as many adventures as we could for as long as we could. And I redeemed my points to get this bike. And we were able to log hundreds of miles all over California before he passed. And when I see this bike, it makes me think about my husband's resilience and how much he loved me and how grateful I am to work for a company that sells something I truly believe in. And for being so good at my job, I get so many points. Not to brag. But I know, although it's the frequency and the authenticity of recognition that transforms the employee experience, providing meaningful rewards can also enhance your efforts to make employees feel valued. So let's see if I can wrap up our takeaways into a neat little bow for you. We scratched the surface on 3 of the 5 traits of an effective recognition strategy, starting with the importance of measuring success in a way that goes beyond usage metrics and captures the performance outcomes that matter to stakeholders outside of HR. We addressed some of the change management fundamentals for maintaining both high recognition quality and quantity. We talked about the role of non-monetary, meaningful peer-to-peer recognition and how democratizing recognition can help you create digital love bombs that turn $50 into peak experiences that can stick with employees for years. We explored how to cultivate a rewards agnostic culture by leading with low dollar rewards. And finally, we discussed how personalized rewards at scale can enhance the emotional impact of recognition. One thing I really hope was clear is, although recognition is just one tool in your tool belt to help motivate employees and rally them around specific behaviors, how you use a tool or HR technology is so much more important than what you use. If you are somehow under the impression that a pencil should be used as a hammer, you're not going to think that pencils are very useful. You don't need to buy achievers, but you need to acknowledge that mislabeling the tool of recognition as a nice to have instead of a must have is enormously costly to not just employee well-being, but the bottom line of the business. This is the part of the presentation where you are welcome to take out your phones if you would like a copy of the slides and would like to learn more about the report from the State of Recognition. You can click it here. Also, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I get my best feedback from this audience. I host a lot of fun virtual events and webinars. I always say I want feedback, and no one ever gives it to me. I'm going to be here. My lovely colleagues in the purple Letterman jackets and I would love to know what this brought up for you. And lastly, I would like to thank each and one of you for listening to me and for taking time out of your busy lives to be here and learn and grow on behalf of your employees. It says a lot that you are here. So please, let's give it a round for you.